Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Aquarius for August 2016. Check out my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Check out to see what's new on my blog. And while you're there, sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community. If you'd like to learn astrology with me, there might be some slots left in my Astrology Apprenticeship program. And if you'd like to bring your business online, check out my Creating Successful Online Business course. So what's happening in August? This is a really important month. We've got the first 10 days of it, time to continue blazing forward. This was a theme that started in the beginning of July, this open window for launches and making new commitments and making plans. Lots of Leo energy that are saying burn bright. I'll go into much more detail about that later. And then after August 10th, the energy really starts to shift with that Mercury retrograde, kind of going back deep into short-term things. Something very, very important to know about August is that it's the month before the eclipses. September 1st and September 16th are the eclipses, and I will go into way more detail about that in September's readings. But for now, it's important to know that eclipse news can come 4 to 6 weeks before the eclipses. So that means really at the end of July, you could start seeing life-altering news come in that's related to these eclipses. So generally the recommendation for eclipse time is to rest and respond. You're going to need your energy. Many of you are going to have a crazy busy time from the eclipses. Some of you might be supporting other people who are having life-altering events occur. Some of you might be the ones having the life-altering events, and some of you might be both. When you see that time of the year where it seems like the crap is hitting the fan and everybody's just like, whoa, and that's not always bad stuff happening. It could be someone gets a job opportunity 10,000 miles from where they live, and they are moving, and wow, that's busy and it's crazy and it's stressful, but it's awesome, So eclipses bring all kinds of radical news, and it puts people often in a support system. Sometimes they're not the ones having the experience of the change. So you want to rest and respond rather than initiate when the eclipse energy gets stronger. And that's sort of matching this Mercury retrograde energy that's coming. But until the beginning of August, like around August 10th, if you've got some things to push through, you might want to do it if it's in the flow, because you're not going to have another window again until October, and that will be the last open window of the year. And I'll talk more in detail about that as well. So some things specific for Aquarius energy. I'm calling the theme of this month Deepening Love. Whenever the personal planets and the outer planets, but usually, the things that change the most in a given month is the short-term placement. So whenever these planets, I always think of them as people gathering at a party, where they gather is the house, who's gathering, and the personalities of the people gathering, the planets are who is gathering. The sign that they're in is the personality or the mood of the gathering. And that's very much, you have a Leo, Virgo type of mood, which I'll talk about in more detail soon. But where all these planets, these party goers are gathering are in your 7th house. And your 7th house is about relationships. It's a house of marriage. It's a house of collaborating with other people, sharing. It's basically one-on-one interactions of every kind with, clients, neighbors, people that you know from somewhere else. It's just the one-on-one connection between people. So there's a huge theme there for you. Some of you will have it long-term still, but for all of you, you have it short-term. That's all early, middle, and late degree placements. So I'm going to make some recommendations based on the placements for Aquarius. One is to stay in this, it's a wonderful spiritual practice to make peace within yourself and also with enemies. I believe that the reason why we don't have peace in the world is because individuals don't have peace. So if someone is at odds with themselves, that inevitably is going to spill over into being at odds with people and circumstances in their lives. So making a commitment to inner work is one of the best things that you can do to improve your personal relationships. But there are also some things directly you can do with other people, like trying to make peace with an enemy or an adversary. If you're having trouble doing that, going to mediation, praying for solutions, really staying focused on win-win options, using the Ho'oponopono, which is this wonderful Samoan, people call it Hawaiian, but it precedes the Hawaiian islands from the Samoans that populated them. And it's a Polynesian prayer, basically. And it talks about, it says, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And this, I cannot in any amount of time tell you how powerful this prayer is. You can look up the Ho'oponopono, Ho'oponopono. That could be a way that you could work on a solution. But anything having to do with making peace with an enemy or an adversary and trying to be on the same team instead of working against each other is really great use of this energy. You can also choose to collaborate or work on a project with someone. The 7th house is amazing for being very productive with working on something together with someone else. Making time for your love in your life is a really cool thing to do in general, but when you have the energies clustered in the 7th house, if you're not in a relationship, it makes it more likely that there'll be activity in that house. And if you are in a relationship, it's like turning the spotlight into that area of your life. What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? You know, how can you be on the same team? That's the basic question, the basic lesson of this house is, how can you be on the same team with everyone and use your energy synergistically instead of antagonistically? Spend time with your favorite people, all kinds, any kind of capacity, and people you want to get to know better. So if you know someone and you'd like to get to know them better, when there's activity in the 7th house, it's a really good time for building personal relationships. Now, one note about that is if a new person comes in your life in the retrograde cycle, sometimes the nature of the relationship, it's more likely that the nature of relationship will change pretty quickly. Like, let's say you have a romantic interest, then very quickly they turn into friends. Or sometimes they come in as a friend and then very quickly it turns into something else. When you have someone new come in during a retrograde cycle, which August 10th pretty much until October 7th is that cycle, then just kind of be aware of the fact that it may change pretty rapidly. So try to not make any commitments to what it is, but spending time getting to know people, it's really good use of this energy. You can also take sales training. Sales is in this house from the perspective of how you deal with people one-on-one. There are certain things that make a successful salesperson. Although within successful salespeople, there are people with different personalities and ways they go about doing things. But there are some time-tested things that actually work. So if you are trying to expand your own business or you're working for someone else, helping them expand their business, this would be a really great time to take some sales training to facilitate your expansion of your one-on-one relationships in business. You can also improve your customer service. I'm sure you can think of off the top of your head the difference in experience with someone who is apologetic and is emotionally connected to being compassionate to what you're feeling, compared to someone that is just like a righteous, we'll just say not a nice person. It's a totally different experience. I'm thinking of a company that I use for some work-related things, and every time I call them up, no matter how aggravated I am about whatever's going on that they're helping me with, they have a way of kind of just acknowledging, I hear that you're aggravated, and this is just like so standard with dealing with humans. If you can just stop and acknowledge that the person is feeling a certain way, then very often you can break through that barrier and get done what needs to be done. So improving your customer service is a wonderful way to use the energy in the 7th house. So these are some things specific for Aquarius energy. And now let's go into more detail about the energy of Leo, the energy of burning bright, the energy of Virgo, which is another strong dominating energy this month, how you can max out the planetary potentials, the general planetary potentials for all signs. We can break down August into two pretty separate and distinct parts. The first is August 1st through 10th, and the rest is after August 10th for the rest of the month of August. There are energies that are very well sort of defined in that time. And so the first part of August has this theme of burning bright. It's this brilliant Leo energy, and I'll go into more about how to capture, enhance, and really, really use this Leo energy. But first I want to place this period of time, August 1st through August 10th, its importance in the whole scheme of the year. When we finally had Mars go direct at the end of June, that opened up this window that started at the beginning of July and runs through August 10th of this. It's an open window for pushing things through. We've had a massive amount of retrograde energy this year, and we haven't had a lot of windows open for just blazing forward. But one of those windows is now in this beginning of August. So if you are watching this early, great, because you have all of July as well. If you're listening to this later and you have just the beginning part of August, then at least you can use it to its max. So when the stars are going backwards, it lends itself to going backwards, being more relaxed, going back over things, not launching things, not doing new things, not making big decisions. When Mars was in retrograde, there are a whole slew of other things we weren't focusing on or weren't good to focus on. But now in this time period with August 1st through August 10th, it's like you have permission and it's encouraged to just blaze forward. So anything that you have to get done, any kind of launches, any bringing something out into the world, anything where you're doing something officially, like getting an LLC or getting engaged or even getting married, or anything that you're locking into place for a while, this energy is just so good for that. And there are some really beautiful dates. August 1st with Venus and Uranus in a beautiful transit. We've got August 2nd with the new moon in Leo. We've got August 10th with a Mercury and Pluto trine. And there are some other really nice transits throughout the rest of August. But the problem with the rest of August, as far as doing new things or being decisive or launching things, is that as of August 10th, the Mercury shadow period starts again. So every day we get closer to August 30th, between August 10th and August 30th, you're getting more deeply entrenched in that retrograde Mercury energy. That's lending itself to short-term things. A misconception about Mercury retrograde is that you can't do anything in Mercury retrograde, and that's totally not true. You can check out my Mercury retrograde blog on my website, anniehelpsyou.com. You can also check out my Mercury retrograde video on my Annie Botticelli YouTube channel to see more about the do's and don'ts and why we have these do's and don'ts. But it's really fine to do things during Mercury retrograde. You just have to understand that they have a shorter shelf life than you usually expect or plan. So if you just plan to do things that are short term during that time, then you're more protected that way. So let's say you have to move. If you move into a place where you have to have a year lease when Mercury's in retrograde, there's a good chance you're not going to finish that lease till the end. But if you can move into a place with a 4 to 6 month lease or a month to month lease, something like that. Or if you're a contractor and you have a short-term contract, if you're starting something short-term, you're more protected. There's still the legality, the agreements, things that could get botched up there or disorganized or not clearly relayed. But it's more of something that you're trying to do longer term, like getting married or like, starting a business, doing something official, launching a brand new website or project that you've been working on forever. Those are things that you want to carry some longevity to them, and you want their birth date to be in a time that's not lending itself to short-term ventures. I can't tell you how many times I've watched businesses in places I've lived open up with great concepts, great customer service, opening in a Venus retrograde, Mars retrograde, or Mercury retrograde time, and they're closed in a very short amount of time. So hopefully that will help you differentiate the energy between a long-term venture started and a short-term venture. So if you're trying to do something long-term, get it busted out by August 10th. If you're doing something short-term, you have more opportunity to work with things. So something else that is important about the month of August is that you're prime in the energy of eclipse season. Eclipse season happens twice a year, and it's usually associated with major changes. For some people, it's completely life-altering changes. For others, you have to kind of look a little bit to really notice what the changes are. Maybe it's a subtle change in perception. Maybe it's a different direction you're moving in, but it doesn't feel like a big deal, but it's something different. Depending on how the eclipse is hit in your personal chart, is usually going to show you the magnitude of the experience for you. So when you've got the 4 to 6 week period before the eclipses start, anytime news can come in. These eclipses have a long range opportunity for bringing news. So the first eclipse is September 1st. That's a solar eclipse at 9 degrees of Virgo. The second eclipse is September 16th. It's a lunar eclipse at 24 degrees of Pisces. And so we're continuing into this Pisces-Virgo polarity that has been going on for a while. It's going to carry us into 2017 with its effects. So usually the recommendation for eclipse time is to rest and respond, because things will likely happen that will need your attention. It might be that you're supporting someone else or other people who are having the radical change, but you need to be there to show up for them. It might be that you're the one having the big changes, or it might be both. So it's not generally recommended to blaze forward or push things through or take things on during the eclipse time, because you want to keep your plate clear so that when news comes in, you're ready to respond. Very often someone will do something decisive during an eclipse time, only 1 or 2 weeks later to have something happen that totally, changes the direction. I'm going to talk at length about the eclipses next month, because that's the month they actually occur in. But I really had to mention them now because many people are going to start to get life-changing news. And I want you to understand them in the broader perspective of things, that, it's the time to sort of rest and respond. So that's why I'm calling this month, the theme is burn bright and then rest and respond, because with all these planets in Leo, we have these opportunities with everything Leo based, which is very much centered around just burning brightly, creativity, happiness, joy, romance, fun. Some questions to ask that can really assist you with maximizing the Leo energies is, how can you burn more brightly? Are you really rocking your life? If you're not, this Leo energy can really help you to do that. Leo rules anything from being fabulous with your hair and your clothing to being fabulous with your gifts and your talents, acting, singing, instruments, athleticism. This energy of Leo is just very much embodying burning bright, how you're showing up in the world, your creativity, what makes you sizzle. So you can ask the questions, what needs to happen for you to feel more inspired? How can you change your routine? How can you bring things into your life that make you feel excited and ready to burn bright? How can you have more fun? How can you have more romance in your life? These are questions to ask and answer when you have a strong amount of Leo energy. So this started in July. So if you're watching early, you can really start to maximize this. And then really until like that first third of August, up until around August 10th, that Leo energy is just absolutely sizzling. And then it starts to fade more into Virgo being in more dominance. Other questions to ask with the Leo energy is, how can you step more into leadership? Many times we can learn a lot more by teaching, and sometimes there are opportunities around for us to step into that place and we're not feeling ready to take them. But this period of time is the one where it's time to try to step into that. I have a really good friend who is an artist, and she has a lot of Leo energy, but she hasn't really been stepping into a role of teaching or leadership. She's been very unique in her expression. And then some opportunities came along where she had a chance to start teaching. And that makes me think of this energy where she was like, gosh, I've never done that before. And she was almost going to say no to it, except that I happened to be there with her when this opportunity was presented. And I was like, hello, you need to do that right now. And that's what this energy is like. If you don't think of yourself as a teacher, if you don't think of yourself as someone that can stand before someone and lead them into something, maybe it's time to rethink that, because so many people are really supposed to be stepping into that, and this is the energy that can assist you. How can you have more enriched and enriching relationships with children? How can you bring this childlike wonder of awe and inspiration into your daily life? These are all Leo-based energies. So you can have a lot of great practices around how can you be more Leo-like in this time to really, really just burn bright. Then the energy shifts, and the Virgo energy is present all month, but it shifts into more strength after the first third of the month. And that's when you can start asking these questions more, like, how can you get better systems together? How can you get more organized? How can you be more disciplined and have an attitude of service? There's so much that is dependent on how we approach things, approaching something with a humble heart is an amazing spiritual practice. I think maybe we've all come into connection with someone who is not in the spirit of humble service, you know, and so you might think, well, if you've accomplished a lot, then you're not in that place of service anymore. You're doing service so that you can get into your other place. Some people think this. And I don't believe it's true. As spiritual beings having a human experience, having an attitude of being in service to humanity is a very important question for your fulfillment. And this energy of Virgo can assist you with really embodying being in service to humanity, having better and more interactions with animals and pets, how you can improve your health, how you can improve your diet and your lifestyle and your regimen, how you can improve your daily experience. That's a big one. And how smart can you work? This is a theme that you've heard coming up for a while, because Jupiter has been in Virgo, and so everything Virgo has been expanded since last summer. And in August, we're at the end of Jupiter expanding Virgo. So all of these Virgo lessons that the personal planets are bringing up very strongly in short term this month is like the culmination of this long-term energy with Jupiter and Virgo saying, how can you leave this transit with better systems in place, everything more organized and productive, everything more fulfilling, you enjoying everything more because everything is well organized, having more discipline in the right places, maybe having less discipline in certain places, and really, in some ways, most importantly, how smart can you work? So many of us are programmed that you have to work hard, and that really gets into your psyche. You have to work hard, and you might find yourself always asking, why am I working so hard? It doesn't have to be that hard. That's a good question, and it doesn't have to be that way. And this transit in the short term, with all of this culmination of Virgo energy and this ending of Virgo with Jupiter energy, is really saying, okay, why don't you work smarter? I made a recommendation, I think it was last month, called a book called The 4-Hour Work Week. The 4-Hour Work Week is just a phenomenal book that can help change your mindset, plus give you practical things to do just to work less and make more, which makes a lot of sense. So the overview of the month again is the first third of the month, August up through August 10th. You want to burn bright, do all your launches, do all your initiating, and then start to move into this rest and response mode. Mercury goes retrograde August 30th. That runs through September 22nd. The shadow period starts August, well, pretty much it's around August 10th. That's why there's that cutoff. And then the shadow period at the end runs until October 7th. So once this window closes August 10th, you're kind of in quiet, not launching response mode until October 7th. And then you've got the last window of the year, which in coming months I'll talk at length about, August 7th through the first days of December, which is our last window of the year to really push things forward. So try to do what you can until August 10th. Anything you can't get done, just table it, rework it, and then wait for your final launch period of 2016. And that's a really important one too, because Venus is going to be retrograde early in 2017. So you're going to want to bust out as many things in that last window of the year as possible. So take it in consideration when you're making your plans. So if you'd like some assistance with putting all this into practice, go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Check out my blogs, sign up for my free email newsletter, which makes you part of my community, gives you access to all kinds of cool things. If you want some self-development assistance, Unleash Your Money Magnet, Shine, my 28-day virtual coaching program, and my Subliminal Train Your Brain programs are all on there. Also, if you'd like to learn astrology, depending on when you're listening to this, there might be a few slots left in my Astrology Apprenticeship program, which is where you join with a group of fellow astrological zealots with me on a journey through the stars and yourselves. And if you're interested in taking your healing business online, check out my Creating Successful Online Business course. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.